Hello.
Hi,
Hi, Mercy.
hi Isabel.
Thanks for making the time to be with me today. I'm happy to have my podcast run again now and invite some great guests like yourself.
Yeah, great. Well, it's a good way to start the year.
Exactly,
Restarting the
exactly. Invite some
podcast.
great guests like yourself. We have a little bit of an echo, maybe.
Yes, it's okay. I've switched it off.
So the first thing I want to say is I've known you for a long time. I could say relatively long time. So we've known each other in
I would
Geneva.
say 12 or 13 years. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I've seen you go through all the jobs and how you evolved with your networking. And I remember meeting you in Geneva, and you were doing already some almost entrepreneurial type of things. So I've always been fascinated to hear about your new projects because you always have projects. So maybe we get started by introducing yourself and what brought you to Switzerland.
So, hi, I'm Marcy, and I came to Switzerland very many years ago, 2003. And I came for hotel management school because, well, that's what most people come for. So when I came for hotel management school, it was at Caesarates in Valais. Beautiful school, beautiful area. And then I came to Geneva for my internship, and then I just stayed in Geneva because, well, why not? Geneva was just, the funny thing is when I came to do one semester in Switzerland, and then I was supposed to transfer to the same campus, but in Australia, because I always wanted to live in Australia. Then every day I just used to say, I have to leave this country. It's horrible. It's cold. It's really not nice. And then I came to Geneva, and whoa, like, I am going to die here. I want to be buried here. I am never leaving this. It was so weird. My shift just changed. And the strange thing is most people do not like Geneva. They like other parts of Switzerland, just not Geneva. For me, it was just okay. I like the other parts of Switzerland, but I don't know. There's just something about Geneva that calls my name. Yeah. And then I've been in Geneva since.
So you like the lake.
Yes, I like the lake, and I still call it Lake Geneva. Lake Lemon, no, I still call it Lake Geneva.
Well, great. I'm happy that you love it. So, a lot of people who are watching us today, they're expats, but they're still in their country. They would love to come. I always get questions about, I would love to relocate to Switzerland. I would love to get a job. So, I think what a lot of people are wondering is how do I go about that? How do I even get started? And also for the people who are already in Switzerland and are stuck right now in just stuck in their career, what advice would you give to both of these people?
So, the ones who would like to come to Switzerland, the first thing I would like to tell people is do not underestimate the culture shock. I think the Switzerland is so different from every other European country I have visited. It is really so different. So wherever you're coming, okay, it's definitely different from every African country, but then even just the European countries, because I think the Africans, they expect the culture shock, but then people coming from European countries, they think they kind of underestimate the culture shock. So when you come, for me, I don't know, maybe if you're in your 20s, it's okay to just take the leap and just jump in and sell everything, move in here. But if you have like a family, or if you're older, or if you're more established and you have your set ways, I would say try with taking long extended vacation from your work and come and just see how Geneva or Switzerland, wherever you want to move is, and just try and see if this is really something you can cope with. Because for most people, especially if you're lucky enough to be able to get the job before you even arrive, then they think that, okay, the hardest part has been done. I have the job. And then if you are, for example, French, or you come from a country that has very good labor laws, you come here and then you're shocked at the power that the employer in Switzerland has. versus the employee when you come from a country where that's not the case. So they're just small things like this that people take for granted and they assume, okay, I speak the language, I feel like I can fit in because Switzerland is very much like the country I come from. But I feel like it's the kind of place that you need to actually have get a taste of it before you commit to it if you have that option. Now, for the
Exactly.
people who are already here, it depends on how long you've been here and how you came here. So, people who came here as maybe, as I mentioned, people who came here already with jobs, right? You come in, and the first thing I see quite a lot of people doing is you end up, your friends are the only friends you have are your colleagues. And it kind of closes you down so much to what you know because your experience is just the experiences of your colleagues. And then you never learn anything else after that. And it's a bit unfair. Unfair on who? On the trailing spouse, for example. Because now, as the wife or the husband, you're the only person, the only friends you have are the colleagues and friends of the person you're married to, which it kind of also limits you, and then it's kind of boring also. So people who are here already, it's more about get out of your comfort zone, try and make that one or two friends. Everybody's always saying the way people in Switzerland are not that friendly and they don't go out and they don't do what. But you know what? You can also just be the one to reach out and just say hi. And Geneva has so many non-Swiss people that if you feel the Swiss are not welcoming to you, then start with the non-Swiss and see how it goes. Even just in your building, you have people who are not locals, so you can always leverage this.
Exactly, and there's so many events that people can attend. It's really rich in terms
Yeah.
of there's something for everybody, based on your hobbies as well. It's a great way to get started, even without the whole business part or work part. I mean, just going for something that you love. A lot of networking happens in the ski season, for example. Really amazing. So, what about you? When did you start realizing that networking is definitely important and it can help you move forward? When did you get the light bulb?
So I'm quite extroverted. So I always assumed that I'm a natural networker, which was actually not true. What used to happen was I was comfortable being around people who had something in common with. So most of my friends at some point were Kenyans like me. And then life happened and a lot of life changes happened. And I think it was around 20, because my daughter was born in 2010. And around 2012, I needed to now really get back in the job market. And I realized the network I thought I had, it's not enough. It was really, really not enough. They they knew what they knew, and that was it. I needed somebody who could help me out of my situation. And it's not because they were not trying, they just didn't have the same life experience. I needed somebody who understood the Swiss labor market. I needed somebody who understood how permits work and how a permit B is different from a what. And I needed all this. All the people I knew were working in the UN with CDLs. So they had zero idea what I was talking about when I'm talking about most of the things. So I needed to be out there and start talking to people. And that's when now I just started. It actually started on G Locals because I don't think Facebook was that active with events back then.
Just for the audience,
Um,
Locals is a website where you can have events, and I think there's a bunch
exactly.
of things on locals
Yeah.
.org, I believe it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just the local events. I started going for different events, the fondue nights, the um I even joined the running club. I don't run, but I joined the running club. I joined the young mothers club. I just joined a lot of different um events that I could be going to. And because of my financial situation at the time, I was trying to, as much as possible, to only go for either the free events or the events that were very, very cheap. So that's how I started. And I realized very quickly that I wasn't in as bad a situation as I thought I was, because I also had something to offer. There are quite a lot of these people who, yes, they had the jobs and yes, they had what, but they didn't have, um, there was something that they didn't know. They didn't know maybe where to get the bus. They didn't know maybe where to get what type of tickets to buy. They didn't know all this. And that really helped with my self esteem. Because now I'm talking to you, and yes, you have the job, and yes, I need to know how to get a job, but you didn't know that if you have a child who's under 16, there's a ticket that you can buy, and you would be traveling for free with this child in the whole Switzerland. So for me, it was just, the small things that I had learned over the years, which don't have monetary value, but they were helping people with just basically settling in. And so that's how my networking started.
And what process did you go through to go from what you say, someone who's an introvert who started from base zero? So you said you started attending local events by looking at what's happening in the local community. So how did you go about chatting with people, or starting having contacts?
It was easier with the English speaking people because English is easier for me than it was with the French speaking people. So with the English speaking people, who were not the people who were my target audience to begin with, I started it. I started by just, okay, so I go for an event. Most of the time I'm going for this event and I'm alone, because I also don't like it when I go for an event with somebody and then we end up spending the whole event together. If I wanted to sit with you and talk to you the whole time, I would invite you to my house and we can sit and talk the whole time. So I used to go for events deliberately by myself. Some of the events, and this has it's not because the organizers are bad. I think it's just human nature. People go for the event and then they sit in groups, the groups that they came in. And even when you try to get in there, you can, and I am a very talkative person. I can find conversation with a dead human being. But you try to go in there and they are talking about something you cannot relate to. And they are not willing to even just change the topic and just, accommodate the fact that now there's somebody who's not with us. If they're colleagues, they're talking about their job, they're talking about this horrible boss, they're talking about, they basically were always talking about something which I could not relate to. And that was, at the beginning, that was really, really hard. When it was French speaking events, my French was really not amazing. And what was the biggest challenge was just the fact that they speak very fast. And there were very few who were willing to slow down their speech to, for me, who is a non-native speaker. And then there's the problem of when they realize you speak English, then they shift to English, and then you're like, no, I came here to practice my French. So what happened was, what I did was I just started going a bit more at the beginning, a bit more for events that I was not going to feel out of place. So they needed to be events where they're talking about something that I can relate to. I tried as much as possible to go for events where there's a speaker, because even if you're coming as colleagues, we are all here to listen to this one person. So if I have nothing to talk to you guys about, I can at least talk about feedback from, okay, what did the speaker do? Then the other thing that I started doing was reaching out to the organizers of these events and asking if I can, well, especially the ones that I couldn't afford to go to, I used to ask them if I can volunteer. to help them with planning it. Because most events, funny enough, in Geneva are organized by people who have full-time jobs. So they need they have to do things outside their work time to to be able to plan the event. So I started just reaching out and just asking, do you need any help? Even if it's just during the event, just making sure everything is okay. And because I have the, the hospitality experience, I always used to mention that and just say, yeah, maybe I can help with this, just small things like that. And I made quite a lot of contacts just through volunteering um my services like that.
Yeah, this way you don't have to wonder so much, how do I get started with a crowd of unknown people? The fact that you're part of the event, the people
Exactly.
come to you. So, for
People
example,
come to me.
exactly. So if you're serving the drinks or the food, especially, people will come to you.
People will always come to you, and then at the end of the day, they always come to you when they're leaving to say, oh, it was a great event, thank you very much, when are you having the next one? That's when now it's my opportunity to tell you, oh, actually I was just helping with this one, but we will send you an email to let you know. And then, but okay, give me your contacts. And then the person gives you their contacts. And then after that, you can follow up, phone call, email, SMS, WhatsApp, whatever.
Exactly. And it's not, you're not being uncomfortable in how you approach, because, again, you're just there serving and people come to you, you're part of the event. There's not this icky feeling of, I'm going to disturb in a group where I just try to talk to unknown people, or am I going to say the right thing, or the fear of rejection also that people mention when you go to an event and you try to mesh with people, but you're like, oh, am I going to be accepted in the group? So when
Yes,
you're new in town, or when you don't have a lot of contacts yet, definitely volunteering is a great way to be part of something, for
it
sure.
is. It really is.
What happened exactly? What I wanted to share also, when we talked offline, you shared with me, and I really like that, the fact that you said all ladies should have I think it was a one night a month or something like that. I just thought it was excellent. So could you share it's almost like your tip on that? So you're thinking more about the one that's following, basically. So you have your husband or your wife working, and you're the one that's staying at home.
Exactly. So when I started organizing the networking in Hills events, which we're going to talk about later, one thing I realized was most of the people were telling me, when you reach out to them, some people post it on Facebook and stuff like that, and then somebody goes like, oh yeah, but I don't ever. No, it's okay, but I don't ever do anything. And I'm like, yeah, but you deserve it for yourself, because people focus on things, right? If your marriage is important to you, you're going to do a date night. If you will do something for yourself, right? So for me, I just figured you owe it to yourself to just have one evening. It doesn't have to be the whole night. I'm not saying you leave at 6 and come back the next morning, but you owe it to yourself, even if it's getting up, going to a restaurant and buying yourself dinner and just eating by yourself. But you owe it to yourself to have just one evening where the other one who works and sees people every single day can actually just take care of the kids or pay for a nanny. And then you get a few hours in a month. So, when you're looking forward to that, you actually feel good, and it kind of gives you something to look forward to, because otherwise your life just becomes this boring thing of taking the kids to school, picking them up, taking them for activities, coming back home. And if you don't have kids, it's even worse, because it's waking up, job hunting, going to sleep, waking up, job hunting, going to sleep. So, you don't even have anything else. But if you know that every second Wednesday of the month, I spend 3 hours at Britannia eating my favorite hamburger. And it's just really something you get. And by the way, do it well. You get dressed, you go. Well, I do every last Monday of the month. like the 29th, I go, I take myself out and I sit and I have, it used to be Thursday, but now I have something on Thursdays. So now I moved it to Mondays. And it's every last Monday of the month, I take myself out and I get dressed. I actually put on full makeup, get dressed, and go. Sometimes I go with friends, sometimes I go by myself, sometimes I just go for a walk and spend a long time just walking. Then I go sit down, have a nice dinner, and I actually even save up towards it so that sometimes I can really do something expensive.
Well, what you mentioned is interesting because it's part of taking care of self. It's
Yeah,
you're never
we
going to
forget
be
ourselves so much. We take care of
exactly, you're never
everybody
going to be
else and forget.
so when you have an interview or when you have to be out there, you're never going to be so effective until you take care of the priorities is really to take care of yourself, because how are you going to convince anyone of anything if you're not at your best, the best of yourself, basically? So I talked about that earlier in some podcasts that I've done about the importance of self-care, and that's where it starts. It's also with the mindset, feeling that you can do it, etc. So this is really preparation for networking, as I call it, putting yourself in your best shape, and then when you do go to events, you feel happy and motivated. And so, but there's preparation to that, and really starting with self, and even going by yourself at the beginning, and having your night out, is really, I think, a good first step.
Yeah,
But we
yeah, it is.
underestimate, and maybe I don't know if it's a feminine thing or if it's for everybody, but I think we're so busy in general with everything that's going on around us that it's hard to say, you almost feel guilty, like, oh, I'm taking care of myself, but there's maybe children or family or someone that needs you. And I think it's always a catch 22, putting yourself first and at the same time taking care.
That is, and we do that a lot. I know we totally and it's like when you're in the plane, they tell you put on your oxygen mask before you put on the oxygen mask of the other person. But I feel like maybe over the years, people have just been told it's selfish to think of yourself so much that we actually believed it. And you're not being helpful to anybody if you are not okay. Because the you can you can get away with barely surviving for a very long time, and then one day it's just going to crash. Everybody's talking about how, oh, all of a sudden everybody has burnouts, and I'm like, no, it's just all of a sudden everybody knows the word for it. It's always been there. We just had different words for it. We just called it different things. We called it midlife crisis. We called it premenopause. We called it everything else except what it really was, where you're burnt out. It's gone. You just can't anymore. And this comes from, okay, I will take care of myself, but first, my husband needs his career to grow. And then I will take care of myself, but first my kids need to finish primary school. And then I will take care of myself, but my kids are going through teenage. And then I will take care of myself, and then for the men, it's the same thing. I will take care of myself, but first I have to provide. I will take care of myself, but first I have to grow in my career. I will first, so there's always something that's more a priority than taking care of yourself. And the minute you say things like I, for example, take every year I take 1 week where I go away on vacation, leave my kids with my friend, and I go on vacation. And I only call them the day I arrive and the day I'm coming back. I don't call in between. And I'm always out of the country. I always make sure it's out of the country so that I'm not tempted to come back home quickly. And I cannot tell you how many of my friends think that is the most selfish thing on earth. I'm like, I don't
Because you're
care.
leaving your kids.
I'm like, I don't care. I need that 1 week so that when I come back, I can go back to loving them. But I cannot tell you how many people think it is such a selfish thing. But for me to reach that point, it's because I had reached a place where I was like, even when I'm on vacation, I'm working. Sometimes I just need a break from that parenting, and then I can come back and be a better parent. So if it works for you, well and good, but you have to find that balance. And that's the reason why for me, the networking, I feel like for most people, that can be where you start. Because even the idea of the 1 week vacation thing, I got it from a networking event. There was a lady who was telling me about how she does a 1 week of momcation, and she conveniently always leaves the phone with the person who drops her off at the airport so that she does not call anybody while she's on vacation. That's a very dangerous thing to do, but she does it that way. But yeah, it's just self-care. I feel like when you do that, you have to start it from somewhere. So for me, the networking is a good place to just start with the self-care, making new friends. If you're in a foreign country, you need those new friends.
Yeah, you will experience something different. You will get out, we talked about getting out of that career, spinning your wheel. Maybe you have gone to interviews, it's always the same results, not leading anywhere. What I think what you're saying is, sometimes just taking a step back, and that's what I've said many times as well. Go on vacation somewhere, do something different, and you'd be surprised, because sometimes what happens is when you take your foot off the pedal, all of a sudden, that's when you get those phone calls that you've been waiting, for many months, and now that you're a little bit saying, yeah, off with it, I'm gone, and that's when the phone is going to start to ring. Actually, it happened to me in my early career. I remember I went on holidays, and I remember it was in Dubai. And my plan was really to be like cool and enjoy Dubai. And I had interviewed at the time for a position, and I wasn't thinking that I would even get an interview at that stage, because it was something a little bit different than what I had done before. And when I was least thinking about it, here we go, the phone rings, and we would like to see you for an interview. I was like, okay. So that proves the point, actually doing things that are almost counterintuitive, that you'd think, oh, but I'm on a job search, or this is definitely not the time to think about me or to do something like that. This is actually going to be giving you results. It's the life works in amazing ways.
Exactly. It does. It totally does.
So I like your idea of taking that time off. Uh, you told me also another thing that I thought was interesting in our conversation. You said that when you apply for a position, you try to find someone internally that works there to support your application. So could you give us an example of a time when you
So
did that, and how do
So
you
the
go?
good, so the reason why I feel like I have been lucky is because when I started the whole networking process, yes, I was looking for a job, and then I got a job, and then I kind of slowed down, but I never stopped. And I feel like the fact that I never stopped has been the best thing ever in my life, because when you're looking for a job, you are out there networking, and specifically networking to find a job. Which, of course, if you're looking for a job, I'm not going to tell you go to a networking event and don't mention you're looking for a job. But you're coming there already with a need. You are not presenting yourself as the solution, you're presenting yourself as the person with the problem. Now, what happens is once you have the job, there is a certain level of confidence you have because somebody saw me, somebody saw my skills, and somebody liked me and gave me a contract. So when you go for an event after you have a job, you actually feel like you are talking to your peers. It doesn't matter if they're CEO and you are not, and you're what, but you genuinely feel like I am talking to somebody who has a payslip just like me. And there's a different level of we can be friends, even when you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, which is where most people meet their professional contacts. You're connecting with someone on LinkedIn, and it doesn't matter what they do. It just matters that I also have something that I'm doing. And it's a different level of confidence. So my advantage was the fact that I keep networking through. I do not stop. I reduce because I don't have as much time. or as much energy, because sometimes you're from work and you're just in such a bad mood. You do not want to go and be nice to people. But I keep it all through. And then what happens is when something happens, like a layoff, or, like currently I'm looking for a position, I almost every single vacancy that I'm seeing, I have met somebody who either works there or mentioned that they used to work there or mentioned that they had a friend who works there. Geneva is really small. Geneva is really small that you can almost always find third degree of separation from somebody who is everywhere, right? So it's one of those, okay, I need to write a cover letter for this. And I really still don't understand why HR people need cover letters. Okay, yes, they help sometimes to sell yourself better, but those things are hard to write. Anyway, you it's easier when I send a message to somebody and it's not out of the blues. I have never spoken to you for 5 years, and then all of a sudden I'm coming. Hi, Isabel. I'm looking for a job at Gavi. Remember when you worked at Gavi? Can you help me with some tips? But if we kept in touch, we saw each other at a few events. We don't have to have been very close. It's just one of those. Hi, Isabel. Guess what? So I've been laid off and I'm looking for something, and I've seen this position and I noticed that you used to work there. Do you know anybody who's currently working there, or do you have any tips? Or do you think it's still nice? I particularly have reached out, to give a solid example. I applied to a position and I reached out to somebody about the position, and I wanted to know the salary expectations to give because they had contacted me for a first exploratory interview. So I'm like, okay, this is where they always ask the salary expectations, which I've never understood why they ask, but they ask. I want to know, I don't want to sell myself short because that's one of my weaknesses. I totally sell myself short on salary. So I didn't want to make that mistake. So I contact this person and I tell her, oh, by the way, because it's someone we had worked together at Global Fund, different departments, but we worked together. Then tell her that, what is the salary compared to Global Fund? So I'm not asking how much she's making currently because some people don't like to disclose that information. I'm not asking her to give me a range. I'm just asking her what's the salary compared to Global Fund, because then now at least I know where we are starting from. So if she tells me they pay higher than Global Fund by far, or they pay just the same as Global Fund, or they pay lower than Global Fund, then now I go with that. So now I can estimate my experience since then. It's been 3 years now. What do I add? What do I reduce? So it helps with even just getting that kind of information. The other way that my vast network has helped has been just referrals. The way companies have these referral policies, especially the ones that actually pay their employees to, yeah. So when you reach out to your network and tell them, listen, I'm looking for a job and I need this and I need this, some of them actually know and you will be shocked how many people are like, yeah, but we have this? And I'm looking at the job description and I'm like, you really have never met me. They're like, yeah, but I really see you doing this because I know the person who's currently doing the job and you are so much better than and you're like, in a way, it's also really helping me, especially these last 2 months. I've been starting to wonder if I'm underselling myself because so many people are like, yeah, in our company, the person who's currently doing that job that's been posted, I really think that you would be way overqualified for that. So, it also helps with just building my self-esteem, with just knowing when I'm called to that interview, how to present myself. But yeah, so reaching out to the contacts so my process has been see the job offer, check if there's anybody I know works there. Even just my LinkedIn contacts, the ones that maybe we just connected, because sometimes you just connect, you don't know anybody, but you have somebody in common, and that somebody in common is the one I know. I would send a message to that somebody in common and tell them, I'm applying to this and I've noticed that you are connected to this person. Are you close to them or are you just connected on LinkedIn? Sometimes they're just connected on LinkedIn. And then I go like, okay, fine. I'll just throw a shot in the dark and I send them a message and tell them, listen, we've been connected for a while and I'm just wondering this. So that's when I don't know somebody specifically in the company. But when I know somebody in the company, then I just reach out and just tell them I'm thinking of applying. And I always do that before I send the application, just in case they have the internal referral process, because then that's I'm not sure. Maybe you who is in HR knows, but I'm not sure if it makes a difference. But for me, at least, I have gotten more interviews, or at least more fast interviews from the referrals than just from the applications, which did not have an internal referral. So I think I'm not sure if it makes a difference, but in my case, it has made a difference.
Well, I can tell you when I was working in not for profit, a lot of people we interviewed came through referrals because we would have especially senior staff that would come and say, I have this person that I've known for many years. They're great at this. They're going to send their application through. Can you look at it? So I know that internal referrals played a big role. And I think also in the private sector, because already when you're recruiting, you get applications. That's the whole process of human resources, is to filter and find the right person. But if you have your employees that are putting their name out there, because it's really, if you give a good word for someone, you are putting your name out there, and if the person is not so good, you know it's going to fall back on you. So I think as a human resource person, if someone would come to me and say, check this person out, I would definitely look at it. Firstly, because it's an internal referral, so this person has put their name out there for them, and because they know the company or organization, they know the skills that are needed. So if they put someone forward, you know that it's because they probably have the skills that are needed. So I would say most of the time it was a positive thing. It doesn't mean they would get the job, but at least you would be looking at their application a bit closer. You would potentially even interview them. So it's definitely a huge, huge plus. And I think if someone is willing to do that, it's a great help. If you have connections that are willing to do that for you, they're definitely doing you a huge favor, because it does help. And internal referral is really highly valued by any human resource department. So,
and I like the fact that you have actually specified that it doesn't mean they will get the job.
yeah, yeah,
Because
exactly.
that I feel like that is where people go wrong. I've had people who come for my events and they meet somebody and they talk, because that's just generally how the setup is. They talk, and then after they've talked, the feedback they give afterwards, oh, but I didn't get a job out of it. I'm like, it was not a recruitment session. And even if it was a recruitment session, not everybody who gets interviewed gets the job. But I think people have this kind of expectation of, if Isabel referred me, I have to get the job because Isabel told you about me. But Isabel might have referred you, but she's not the only person in the company. Maybe there are three others who are also referred by internally, and they're probably more qualified or just as qualified, or so yeah, I like the fact that
And
you mentioned that
HR is so,
it's not a 100% guarantee. It's just that extra vote of
it's
confidence.
extra help. And human resources, in the end, the recruiters are the ones with the executive team to decide. But at least it's help, definitely. It's a little bit of a support. And of course, if you do job dating, which a lot of events put that forward, to do job dating, again, it is not a job offer. I mean, it just means that you're letting people introduce each other, and maybe you get some business cards, but it's definitely not a job. It's a long
Yeah.
process to go to the offer. And especially in Switzerland, people have to realize, the process can be quite long, because sometimes it could be almost a year for some positions, because there's so many steps, so many interviews. And I'm very well aware in other countries it's quicker. For example, in the English speaking countries, usually they look at it differently. They look at it like, okay, we have this job opening, you don't have the perfect profile, but we let you, I know in the US it's a little bit more like, we give you a chance, and we let you prove yourself a little bit. But in the European countries and Switzerland, I think it's more what kind of degree do you have, and they want proof, proof, proof. Give me proof. So it takes longer than if you want to do it that way, because then you need to check all this proof.
Yeah.
So you work for some of the most wanted organizations in Switzerland. We mentioned
I
Global
am
Fund.
so lucky.
You mentioned,
Sometimes I am so lucky. But anyway, ask your question.
so yeah, you work for Global Fund, you work for UNICEF. I remember when you told me you entered UNICEF. So those are dream organizations for a lot of people, especially if they're abroad. So could you give us maybe your advice on how to make it to those organizations or get a
So
chance?
for me, to be honest, sometimes I look at my journey and I'm like, okay, the networking helped a lot. Then quite a lot of things helped. So the first step was, at first, of course, the international organizations. I really didn't know how I was ever going to get into that. And there was always the issue of I wanted to keep my residence permit. I did not want to get a legitimation card. So it was one of those tricky things. And then I remember a time you reached out to me to help me with my CV, because we had known each other for a while. And yeah, so you helped me with my CV, and I applied to the International AIDS Society. And when I got there, I did that job at IAS. And I remember it was a 3 months, 2.5 months contract, and I really liked it. And I've been interviewed by UNICEF before that. And when I was interviewed by UNICEF, it was for a receptionist position. It was part time, and they didn't take me. So when I was at IAS, my first week at IAS, UNICEF calls me to tell me, yeah, we are interested. And I'm thinking, this is a 3 month contract. So do I just say no, thank you, and that's it? I said, okay, I'm still interested, but I currently have something that I'm doing. And I was busy selling myself on that phone call. I was like, when I'm going to finish it, and when I finish it, I actually will have even more experience. So it's one of those, please, 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 if you can just wait for me for 3 months. And then she told me, I can't guarantee you that the job is still going to be there because we are actively recruiting, but I'll try and call you back. You can reach out to me in 2.5 months and see if we still need somebody. She's the one who reached out to me. I was planning to call her that at the end of that week, but then she's reached out to me on email and told me, I've just remembered that you had mentioned you're finishing in September. One of our receptionists is leaving, so are you able to start part time in September? And I was like, yes, 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 yes. And for me, UNICEF, especially that reception position, was my chance to work on my French, because I had been living in Geneva and I had been talking to people in French, but I'd never worked in an environment where I actually need to use French. So I never felt like I could put French on my CV, because then how do I even prove that I could do it? So here you have to answer phone calls. You don't know who's on the other end, which language they're speaking. When they're calling Geneva, most of the time they're expecting a French speaking person on that other end. The security guards decided they are not stressing themselves with English. If I'm working there, I need to speak French. They have to deal with everybody else who doesn't speak French. So the French had to come. So that was really good for me. And then when I was there, it was just more the internal networking, just talk to the people, talk to the lady who was in HR, talk to quite a few people in there. So one of the ladies who was in HR, I had applied for a position, was interviewed for it. I didn't get it. And then she told me that she has a friend in Global Fund, and her friend told her that most of the assistants in Global Fund are actually recruited as consultants through agencies, and she would give me the list of the agencies. So I went, wrote down the list of the agencies, and then just sent my CVs. And then one of them contacted me and told me, okay, I'll send your CV to this person. Okay, so I went for a few interviews at Global Fund before I finally got the position that I had, which was also a part-time position. But then by now I was like, okay, I'm done with this part-time things. I need a real salary. But so I started off at Global Fund in a part-time position. And I think at Global Fund, that is where I specialized my inter inter-office networking skills, because I was on short contracts. My contracts were 6 months, 3 months, like that. And because I was the team assistant most of the time, I'm the one who had visibility of the budget. So you're looking here and you're like, even if the boss wants to keep me, dude doesn't have the money. I can't. I know for sure this contract is not getting renewed. So I have 3 months to find something, you know. So I'm going to do my job the best of my ability. And especially when it's a short contract. So now you're definitely you're working for your reference. So I'm going to do this to the best of my ability and start looking internally. And that's where, the lunches with the other people comes in, and okay, how can I help this team? And okay, this assistant is sick, let me step in, and small things like that. And that's basically how I learned the inter-office networking. And yeah, so for me it was really, really good. Because I managed to really move internally, grew a lot, because I had, when you work with people who are very passionate about what they do, it kind of rubs in on you and you find yourself really feeling invigorated about it. So, and I was like, okay, fine. Now I kind of needed something a bit more open ended. I needed to go somewhere different because my contract was coming to an end. And Yeah, so I started looking, applying, and a few interviews. And then I found myself, because everybody had told me you can't apply to the private sector because you won't get something in the private sector because you've been working in the NGO world for 6 years. By then it was now almost 8 years. And they were like, yeah, that's too long. You can't get something. I was like, okay. And then I just started applying. And I got my job at SITA. I didn't even have an internal reference. And it was amazing. I think what I realized, and this is what I keep telling people, especially if you're in something like administration, because if you're very specialized, then it's a different case. But if you're in something like administration, don't limit yourself. Because for example, I don't work I love when it's a company that has the same morals that I have, the same beliefs that I have. Believe in their mission. But for me, I actually like the position more than I like the company. I can adjust to the company depending on the position. I really just love being a support staff. I like being, the let me take care of people kind of mentality. So I feel like sometimes people just limit themselves, and you never know where your luck is going to come from. If I would have just told that person at UNICEF, no, I already found something, and focused on keeping myself at IAS, because that was my plan B. My plan B was I'm just going to focus on trying to make sure I stay at IAS. It was not possible because they already had somebody for that position who was going to start immediately before. So I was actually just bridging a gap before that person came. And so small things like this, you never know where your luck is going to come from. And every single day, when you're thinking about those companies with the big names and you're thinking, oh my God, whether it's the UNICEFs and the global funds and the SITAs and all, whatever the big company is, there's somebody signing a contract with that company almost every single day. And you're just a human being, just like that somebody. So if you have the right qualifications, if you have the right confidence, if you know you're good at whatever you're doing, then go out there and just try. Don't let anybody tell you it's not possible. Figure out people who work there. I think when I went to Global Fund, it felt like I already worked there because I was there for every event they had. They have Africa Day. I was there for Africa Day. 5 years before I started working for Global Fund because I really wanted to work for them. I was there volunteering for things. I was there doing so. I knew so many people there. When I was there, it felt so okay because I wanted to work there. So I worked towards it.
It's almost like I'm listening to you, and it's almost like when you're chasing, you're like company chaser, like you're going to be there every day and wait by the door. But it's true. I mean, what you're saying, there's so many things in what you said that could become almost a case study on how to get a job in Switzerland, because you put in place a lot of things that I think bring some results. And of course, being there for events, almost projecting yourself already there, even if you don't have the contract yet. There's the idea of becoming very good at what you're doing. Excellence in Switzerland is very valued. Just being good in your position, in your job, and at some point you will be in the position that you want. So it's working towards that. And you took a lot of short-term contracts. You worked for other companies until you had the chance with the bigger names potentially that were interested in you. So all roads lead to Rome in a way, because
Exactly.
whatever you're doing towards achieving excellence, knowledge, increasing your network, even if now
And
you're
with
not
every
there,
job,
there.
with every job, you learn something new. I learned so many things about myself from every single position I've had, and I've added them as an advantage to the next position. I've done whatever needs to be changed, and then there are some things that I realize are just character flaws, and I just need to be aware of them and just learn to work around them or work with that character flaw. But then you never know this until you have put yourself in that position. So for me, I've always said there is nothing too small. And sometimes maybe you feel like, okay, I'm doing this and it's not leading to where I want to go, but you never know. You never know who you're going to meet there.
Exactly. So it's looking at it like a process of self-improvement. We talked a lot about self-improvement,
Yeah,
because whilst you're improving yourself, you also become more marketable and more interesting for whatever company you're targeting. So I think putting it, instead of I want a job with this organization, is let me work on myself first so that I become the person that this company will want to hire. And this is exactly what you
exactly.
explained with UNICEF, when you say, look, I have a job now, I'm stuck for 3 months doing something that I actually enjoy. Then they look at you more seriously than someone who's desperate in a way, like, oh, I don't have a job and please hire me type of thing. So yeah, there's lots of things there that you said. So you realize you become this networking experienced person. So you took all that in and you said, what about starting some events in Geneva that would be empowering people, right? So how did the idea just pop up in your head about
So
networking?
when I noticed, okay, I started going for a lot of events, and one of the things that I noticed was the first one that I mentioned before. Some people come sit in groups and they never move. The other thing I noticed was just some people were uncomfortable with networking events where it was mixed gender because either they just feel so self-conscious. You're already at your weakest point and you don't really feel comfortable around. I remember a friend saying that it is easier for her to admit to a woman that she can't drive a stick shift than to admit it to a man, because then she is actually admitting a weakness and she's trying to project this strong woman image. And so I figured that maybe that is something that is hindering people, because I genuinely believe that networking is something that people should do. And I felt like maybe what is hindering a few people would be the fact that they need to practice networking, but they need to practice this networking in a comfortable environment. So when it started, it was more a few ladies, let's go for dinner, let's do this. So I wasn't putting so much thought into it, but it just used to be a few ladies. We met on Facebook, went for a few dinners here and there. Um, and friendships grew out of that. I knew quite a few people who I don't even remember my life before these people came into my life, and yet I haven't known them for more than 12 years. But but yeah, slowly by slowly it continued like that. Of course, the more I got jobs, the more the networking's reduced, but we still went. And it also helps with motivating each other that, okay, this person I met at a networking in heels event. And by the way, it's called networking in heels, but you do not have to wear high heels to come to this event. You can wear your flat
Good
shoes.
to know.
I'm almost in my mid 40s, and even I can't stand high heels the whole time. It's just a name. So because that's the first things I keep hearing from women of a certain age. They're like, my knees can't take heels anymore. I'm like, don't worry, we got you. Anyway, so um some of them, they get the moral support and they're like, I've always wanted to go for the bankers networking event, but there are so many men. It's such a masculine atmosphere. But then you go to a networking in heels and meet a woman who's also in banking, and then you're like, next time we go together. So now at least you know for sure that when you go there will be one extra you. So that helped. And then during COVID, of course, everything stopped. And then 2021, 22, we restarted. And I think this is when I decided, you know what, let me do. It doesn't have to be many events. Let it be 3 events, but 3 very good events per year. So we have one in February, we have one in June, and we have one in November, October, November, depending. And we go to a good restaurant. That's one date a month. So this is the one date a month. You go to we rent a nice place, make sure they privatize it for us. And we go there, and it is divided into three steps. So the first step is more like speed networking, where I give you a card with information, with questions, stuff that you need to know about people. So it's like bingo. And you need to walk around the room, talk to everybody, and figure out take the phone number of whoever those things belong to. So you get at least 6 phone numbers. Hopefully, you will follow up with those people, get drinks, coffee, whatever with them afterwards. So that's the first 1 hour. The second hour, whoever you felt you gravitated towards, or the people you felt like you want to talk more to, spend that 1 hour with them. And then the third hour, we talk about our careers and, stuff like that. So sometimes we have people who work in HR, and then they can be like, you know what, when I was talking to you people, I realized this, and I want to just give you this advice. This is what I want to say. You find people who are in immigration or whatever, because I never know who's coming for these events. Out of 35 people, maybe I know 10 people. The rest are always new. There are always new people coming. And so that's what we do with the last hour. And the food is also divided in the same way. So we have appetizers, the main course, and then the dessert. So we eat for 3 hours. So I like the fact that it's a chilled environment. I make sure that everybody meets everybody, and everybody feels included, and everybody feels like they're valued. And that way you get something out of it, because um at least get this out of it. Your date night, let it be good. And the dress code is always the same. Dress like you're taking yourself out on a date.
I like the idea.
Yeah.
I like the idea. So you have an event coming up in February.
I do. I have so our first winter connection is on 24th February, and all the events are on our website. And yeah, and it's a 3-course meal. We are going to have drinks, alcoholic, non-alcoholic tea. We are going to have fondue. We are going to have a buffet. We are going to have everything that we can possibly have in
I'll
a
make sure
nice
to share
four-star
the link
hotel.
so that people who are in Geneva can sign up for it.
Exactly. We will be perfectly there and enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. I hope many people sign up. So I'll share the link to your website.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Definitely, I like the idea of building the concept around food. It's
Oh,
always
yeah.
a good idea. Always a good idea. Then, of course, we don't forget about, because I think your organization, your website is for lady networking, right?
Yes,
Mostly ladies. So I'll share some links also for maybe some men who are watching this video and they're like, what about us men? And there's a lot
exactly.
of events also. I'll share some links. And maybe in the future you expand as well to everybody. This is just maybe for the women first who are not so confident and want to grow within
Yes,
themselves first. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So, well, we never know how it's going to grow. We never know if it's going to grow to past Geneva because that's the other thing. I've been having people from Vaud coming for the events and going like, "Oh, we should have one in Lausanne." I'm like, "Organize it, I'll come."
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You have to start somewhere. So
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. So anyway, any last thoughts about networking, about living in Switzerland, about
I think the thing with living in Switzerland, it's different for everybody. And my thing has always been do not take somebody's experience and believe that that is what your experience is going to be. Some people have had good experiences. As I said at the beginning, I'm one of the few people who thinks that Geneva, well, one of the few of my friends who thinks that Geneva is heaven. Most people have issues with it. But you can't let somebody's experience be your experience. When you're applying for a job, when you're applying for something, just think of it like this. That HR, people tell you, oh, you have to send about 100 applications before you can get a job. Yeah, but that HR person doesn't know how many applications you have made. So they're looking at it from that, they're looking at it as the application they have received out of the thousands. And so, it's just your experience is not other people's. Other people's experiences is not necessarily going to be your experience. So take everybody's advice. Yes, Geneva is a hard place to live. Yes, Geneva is expensive. Yes, Geneva is very competitive in the job market. But you know what? People are out here succeeding every single day. Like every single day. I remember one time my unemployment advisor many years ago told me every day there's somebody being fired and every day there's somebody signing a new contract. So you cannot just say that, oh, it's a bad time in the job market right now. No, if that's your dream and that's really what you want, then go for it. Go for it. Do your best. And, whether you believe in God or nature or whatever it is you believe in, something will work for you and just be positive.
exactly. I think being positive is really what it's about, and uh, testing out the Swiss market. And again, everyone is different. I think we all have. I don't know if I want to use the word destiny, but we all have something that we're meant to do. And what I also tell people who are maybe struggling with the Swiss market is that I say there's so many other countries as well where you could be very successful. So let's not forget that, yes, Switzerland has a lot to offer, and especially if you have reasons to be there, family, etc., it's great. But also the message is, if for some reason it's not working out, maybe there's other places also where you could be thriving. And I've known also expats who left Switzerland, and as soon as they were hitting the new country, all of the sudden everything happened for them. So yes, there's opportunities, but there's also opportunities worldwide. So
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely. Okay, well, I shared the link. It was great to talk to you.
You too.
And so many, I think you shared so many important aspects of the job search and networking in Geneva, and even I was really impressed by everything that you've done and how you were able to set yourself up in Geneva and all the companies that you work for. So it was great to hear from someone who did it, who did the work.
Oh yeah, it's hard work, but once you have it handled, I mean, it's easy.
Then
It
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 gets
becomes fun. It becomes fun. I
it
think of it
becomes
more as
fun
fun than easy.
and it gets easier because you
Yeah,
start getting the hang of it. So
yeah.
okay, well, talk to you soon then. Have a
Thank
great
you.
rest of the week.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.